Hey, everybody, and welcome
Hi.
to the Living Better podcast, episode 5. So, tonight we have the lovely chance of having my wife, Jodi, on the podcast. She hasn't been on it in the previous episode. She was really busy with her new job and things that were going on around herself. But we're lucky enough tonight we have her on the podcast.
Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here. I'm sorry that I wasn't on for the previous episodes, but
It's okay.
I know you killed it because you always do.
I try, but, say sorry to the people over there.
Well, and please bear with me. This is my first podcast I've ever done in my entire life. So I might be horrible. Okay. Just a warning. Okay.
You're going to be awesome.
Thank you.
This is great.
Let's hope.
This is great. So tonight, people, we're going to talk about testosterone replacement therapy and hormones. And I'm the perfect subject for that because I went through all of it. And it's been a learning curve, but I definitely learned a lot about hormones and how they affect your behaviors. They affect your sex drive. They affect your mood. They affect everything.
Absolutely.
And my wife was unlucky because she had to be there in the beginnings when it was actually awful. So to talk about this.
Yes, I want you, maybe you should go back from.
Yeah, so we're going to go back to how it started. So when I was 20 years old, I had a lump on a testicle. And, I obviously my first reaction was to Google it and to try to see what it was. And the worst it could be was cancer, right? So I talked to my friend. I was in the army at the time. So one of my good friend I talked to, he says, don't mess around with that. Go get it checked out.
Of course.
And he pushed me to it. So I remember the same day we went to a clinic and right away, I went through like the doctor and they sent me for an echo, which then on the echo, you could see a black, dark lump. Sorry. And then I went to the hospital and four days later, I was on a surgery table getting one testicle removed. Now the doctor told me, which was a little of a surprise, he told me I'm going to take a biopsy, which is a sample of the tumor to see if it was cancerous. But while I was asleep, he ended up taking the whole testicle. So I woke up in panic. I had my stomach cut up. Obviously I reached down there right away and I'm like, wow, I'm missing one, And at that point, I was
that was not a good judgment call on the doctor. Doctors should be able to communicate with their patients beforehand. So I'm really sorry that happened to you. That was already a big traumatic, if anybody can put themselves in your shoes, that must have been a very traumatic moment for you in your life. So I'm sorry that happened to you, love.
Yeah, no, it was very hard because I was 20 years old. I was in the peak of like learning my sexuality and becoming like a young man.
Of course.
And when that happened, then they send you home, right? So then I had to process the whole idea of losing a part of my male anatomy and going through life like this. So obviously I had tons of questions like, can I have sex? Can I have kids? What girls will think out of it? And all of that, right? So I went through, I would say, a small depression, like the months after that, which was like 3 months recovery. It was hard, I was thinking a lot because I had my abdominals cut up, and when you have your abdominals cut up, you cannot do much. You cannot move.
So you were also healing. So you were very limited in what you could do.
Yeah, it was very limited.
Which was affecting your mental health a bit too. It didn't help, right?
Yeah, no, it didn't help. And I remember I had an interview to get a job as a security guard at the casino. Yeah. And I wasn't supposed to go, but I went in a wheelchair. So my best friend brought me in a wheelchair. I did the interview. I ended up...
Well, you got the job, huh? Right away.
Yeah, I ended up acing it and got the job. But yeah, it was definitely hard. And afterwards, when I learned to accept it and learn to
live with, you don't have another choice, right? It is.
Yeah, I had no choice. But I mean, anybody that goes through cancer, I would say, you have to stay positive. You're going to obviously think it sucks because it does definitely sucks. But there's professionals that will walk you through their program that they walk anybody with cancer through. And that's how you get out of it. So, just be positive and don't over stress about it because, and that doesn't just apply to cancer, but anything in life. When you go through something challenging, understand that there's ways to fix it, and just do the best you can to fix it, and you're gonna be a lot better afterwards. So
just take it day by day.
Yeah.
That's
So
all you can do.
yeah, exactly. So that's what it was. So after the years went by.
As you were getting older, right?
Yeah, as I was getting older, when I was 28, so 8 years after, obviously I had only one testicle. So my testosterone production, everything was diminished because I'm missing one part. It's like if you have one lung,
yes, absolutely,
you can't breathe as well. So
it doesn't work as much as if you had two, right?
Well, it was for a while. It's
common
just
sense.
It went down. So
exactly.
As you age, your testosterone goes down, and what ended up happening to me at 28 was I had like andropause, which is what guys over 40 years old go through when their testosterone drop. So they start having mood switches and mood changes, and they have a hard time with their sexuality and their energy level, and they fall asleep everywhere, and it becomes very hard for them to function the way they used to function. So that was something that was very challenging for me, specifically. And I didn't understood. So at first, I'm 28. Then I work. I was working as a correctional officer at that time, and I started having struggle with my erections. Like sexually, it wouldn't work at all. I was tired all the time. I had no energy. I was grumpy. I would cry for no reason sometimes. Like it was very, very hard and very challenging.
Yeah.
Because this was kind of a depression, but it was a hormonal induced depression. So it was caused by an imbalance on my hormone levels. So first thing I did is I went to see my doctor, and my family doctor was from the older era, and what she did is nothing. She told me, just sleep, and it's you went through cancer, and you're obviously missing a testicle, and just have naps, and
because that'll fix it, right? People.
Yeah, well, I'm 28 years old, and her solution
to
my problem was have naps, right? So what I did is I ended up finding a doctor who was specialized in hormones.
Yeah.
And at first I didn't know it was my hormones. I had to do blood work. So I do blood work, and obviously they don't test your hormones. They test everything else. So everything comes back clear. My vitamin levels, my iron, all that stuff. And this is not what I needed to test. So I talked to one of my friends in the military, and what he did is he told me that maybe my hormones were off because I had one testicle. So what I did is he knew a guy who was going to this doctor, which was in Ottawa. And I went to the doctor that he told me about, but it was a private clinic. So he was specializing in hormone replacement therapy for all sort of medical conditions. So I went there, and he got me through different tests. And one of the thing that he tested was free testosterone. So free testosterone is what you want to test when you want to test your testosterone level.
Of course. So
it's the amount of testosterone that circulates in your blood. And for a man, you have to be between 300 and 700 NCG, or nanogram per milliliters of blood, to be okay, to be able to function. And my level was 228. So I was under the minimum to function as a man, which is why I was experiencing all those symptoms. Yes. So what he got me on was a testosterone replacement therapy, which I would do injections weekly at first of a small dose of testosterone to bring back my levels in between those ranges. So as I was going through that in the beginning, I met my wife, and we were in our beginnings in a relationship, and obviously in your beginnings, you're all over each other, right? So that was a little awkward because things were not functioning the way they should, based on the fact that my hormones were going through an adjustment period, and it was hard for you, honey, right? So
of course,
talk about this a bit.
Well, at first, right, we didn't have an open communication about that either, right, in the beginning.
Yeah.
I felt like it took time just because I felt like probably you felt embarrassed, right, to
of course, I was totally
express
embarrassed.
all these things that you were feeling.
Yeah.
But for a woman, I'm hopefully I'm talking for all the women, but myself, we're very insecure with that, right? I felt extremely insecure. I felt like, something was wrong with me, that I wasn't good enough.
And we're talking about like a sexual side,
Yes,
the
of
sexual
course.
side.
Absolutely. Like something was wrong with me. What's wrong with my body? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Am I not pretty enough? Am I not good enough? All these negative thoughts, right, were coming into me just because I didn't know. I didn't know what was going on, and I think that was a big issue from the get go. That in a new relationship, we didn't have that communication that we have now.
No,
right?
exactly.
So I didn't understand what was going on.
And I didn't either.
And you
in the
didn't
beginning.
either in the sense because you were still trying to adjust.
Yeah. My testosterone,
your testosterone.
So things were not working perfectly fine, but I didn't know why.
That's it.
And as I learned, as I did more injections and I learned to deal with my new body, just getting adjusted to my new hormone levels, I became to understand very well the role of testosterone and the role of estrogen.
You did a lot of research. First and foremost, it's very important to do research.
Yeah, so I did a lot of research, and when I was on my testosterone replacement protocol, I was not taking another pill that would prevent it from converting to estrogen. So when you start messing up with hormones, you change one thing, then another one can go bad.
Yeah.
So I had to adjust on that level. So my testosterone went higher, which was fine, but then a percentage would convert to estrogen. Then I would start crying for no reason. I remember I was with her once and driving on the highway, and I had to stop on the side, and I was just crying for no reason. I was just super emotional.
I know. That's okay.
But it was hormonally induced, and hormones are very powerful because they change the way you think. They change the way you're, women know that once a month their hormones change and they get either more moody or irritable. And so
the time of the month.
Yeah. So women can relate in a way that they kind of understand that hormones do change you.
Of course.
But
absolutely.
For a man, your testosterone is like number one thing. If it's not dialed properly, or you're not having enough, you're going to experience all those problems. You're going to have sexual dysfunction. You're going to have mood disorder. You're going to have lack of energy. And it's very important to get it tested. So even for my dad, I remember my dad, he passed, we talked about this in the prior episode, but a few years before he passed, he was going down kind of a depression. And I realized that his mood was not there anymore. He wasn't happy. He wasn't going happy, whatever you say in English. Happy go lucky.
He wasn't happy go lucky.
Yes.
As you knew how he was, right? Like that's how you knew your father.
Yes, and you knew him before that.
Of course,
right?
Absolutely.
So when you saw the change.
So there was a change, right? There was a change in his behavior, right?
Yeah.
There was a change there.
There was a change.
It wasn't your dad, right?
Exactly. So he started acting differently, and I said, "Hey, you should get your testosterone tested."
Yeah,
and
of course.
Like my dad was a smoker, he wasn't healthy, he wasn't doing any exercise. So I had those factors that were not helping testosterone wise. But when he went and got his tested, he was at something like 68. So I was having all those problems at 228, and you need 300 to be functional as a man. My dad had 68, so he was really down the dump.
Yes, he was very down. So that again explained it, right?
Yes. So he got on a testosterone.
You were able to help him.
Yeah.
Because you went through the same thing, and also you helped your family and your siblings and your mom to deal with that, right? And to be aware of what it was, and maybe educate them.
Yeah, because people don't know.
Because people don't know what it is,
and old doctors don't know.
They don't know either, or they
no.
Maybe it's a little taboo. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor, but compared to sorry.
I said it used to be taboo. Like the new doctors are up to date with those protocols.
Back then, right? They weren't. It was like, no, like take a nap or
take a Viagra.
A Viagra, really?
That's what they would do with older people. Like
I know,
their testosterone goes down, and you guys probably know a lot of older men that are grumpy and they're just not nice. And that's because their testosterone is down. You give them testosterone, those men would be happy. They would be outgoing.
So. Again, if you could help anybody, any man that's dealing with this right now, what would you say? Or how about any indicators that you could make them maybe aware
Yeah. So if I would talk about that, for me, obviously, I had testicular cancer. So this is not the case for most people.
For most people.
Most people will start experiencing those symptoms in maybe their 40s, around that age, when it starts declining.
Yeah.
And if they don't recognize what's going on, they won't be at ease with themselves, and it's going to create stress in their relationship or whatnot. And it's not going to get any better, because as the testosterone goes down, it doesn't come back up. So before, you used to have to accept that and just roll with it, and that's it. And you're just losing your muscle mass, you're losing your bone size, you're losing your erections, you're losing your mood, you're losing everything. And people used to accept that. That's just called being old. But nowadays, with the medical protocol and all the science that we have, you can replace that. So, if you can
do it.
Do it. Of course, do it. If you can have a doctor or your family doctor, just ask at that age, when you start experiencing symptoms like that, just ask to get your free testosterone tested. And if it comes down under 300 nanograms per milliliter of blood, you're off, right there. That's your problem. So I'm not saying that that's the problem for everybody. But, especially nowadays with the food that's full of, different estrogen stuff and chemicals. And
not only that, sweetheart, it can be stress.
Yeah, it can be stress and loose. Yeah,
there's a lot of different factors, right?
Yeah. That can affect your testosterone. So that's something you want to check out. And even if you have a cool doctor, check it out regularly throughout the years. You don't need to wait till you're 40 years old.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
And, you can do obviously certain things like taking zinc and working out and taking care of your health, and not smoking and all that, which will help you with your testosterone. But at some point, if it's too low and it doesn't come back up, definitely, if you can replace it, go for it. If you can be diagnosed with low testosterone, which is what I have, then you can have all the protocol through your doctor, and it's going to be supported by your insurance company if you have an insurance company. And it's going to be amazing, because people, when you talk about testosterone, they think it's steroids, and there's a lot of taboo around testosterone and people taking testosterone, that they're on steroids and stuff. And don't get me wrong, some people are. So some people do take testosterone to get big and muscular, but what they do is they end up taking too much. So they're abusing their dosage. Whether, like in my case, I'm taking a therapeutic dosage to stay within normal ranges.
That is regulated by a doctor.
Yes, that's regulated by a doctor. And other people, that take steroids will take like insane amount of high levels of testosterone. And most of the time, a lot of them, they're not even supervised by doctors. So it's very dangerous. And
so we don't recommend that either. So
no,
that's not what we're trying to say here.
No, so we're not saying to take steroids. No, we're talking about a medical protocol if your testosterone is low.
Yes.
And that was very hard for a relationship at the beginning, because
and the indicators that you would say for people, that are watching us, right, would say a big change in their mood.
Yeah, big change in their mood. Yeah.
A low sex drive. Like being
moody,
but also having a hard time keeping an erection.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, that's one too. Yeah, exactly. And just not feeling yourself.
Not feeling yourself.
Yeah,
right?
concentration. My concentration was off. I wasn't able to think properly. I wasn't able to do the things that I would usually do. Like I would lose memory too. You lose memory. So I wouldn't have the memory I used to have.
Yeah.
And so if you're experiencing any of those symptoms, it'd be very important to get it checked out. Don't be shy about it.
Yeah.
Because the longer you're going to go undiagnosed, the worse it's going to get. And you can you can lose your relationship to that if you don't know what's going on and you don't have a supportive partner and they think they're the problem, or you're not attracted to them anymore or whatnot.
But this is something else too that I recommend for couples, or for somebody that's feeling that way in the beginning of a relationship. Be open with one another. Talk about it.
Exactly.
It must feel, for him, it was embarrassing, of course, but if he would have let me know that right away, it would have changed. I wouldn't have thought those things in the beginning, right? But then once, we did research together, and you became more open about it, and you were even taking your medication right in front of me, right? The more comfortable I felt, and I felt better within myself, that it reassured me that, hey, nothing is wrong with me. This has nothing to do with me personally. And it made us a lot stronger, right?
Yeah.
So that's something else that we recommend, right?
Yeah.
To be open with one another right from the beginning, from the get-go. Talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's okay, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
So we talked about it. We researched it together. I was not shy. Well, I was shy in the beginning, but when I became not shy to tell her everything, and I would inject myself right in front of her with my medication, my needles, all that stuff, which can look pretty intense and hardcore for a girl that's never been exposed to that. But yeah, it became a lot better. And as I was learning how to deal with that, she was learning how to deal with it too. So at first, I remember I would do one injection a week. So I would get my first few days, I'd be on a woo, like on a high. You remember?
of course, I remember.
And then
you're bouncing off the walls. You're so hyper.
Yeah. And as we would progress through the week towards the end on Saturday, Sunday would drop. So my sexual function, my energy, my mood, everything would drop. So what I ended up doing is splitting my dose in 2 injections. So I'd do 2 injections a week of the same dose, but just divided by 2. So instead of one big dose, well, it wasn't big, but one bigger dose, I would have 2 smaller ones. So then I would be more constant with my hormones. And one thing that's very important when you're messing up with your hormones is consistency. Yeah. So you have to be consistent with your protocol. So now I'm very regulated with it. It's been 5 years that I've been doing that, and I do it regularly. I follow my protocol, and everything's fine. Like I don't have mood changes. I don't have nothing. So yeah, so that's pretty amazing.
Of course. It's wonderful.
And I wouldn't go back to the way I was before. And if you have a doctor that says take naps, don't listen, because you don't want to be sleeping all the time. It won't fix it, and you won't get any better. You're just going to wake up to the same thing you knew. So maybe that's what she wanted me to do. Be asleep so you won't feel it. Yeah, but so that was something that I went through, and it made me go through a small depression. So sometimes, if you're going through a depression, and I had 2 depressions in my life, one induced by hormone changes and the other one was induced by stressful factors. So sometimes you have to dial in what's going on, and nobody's going to do it for you. So I had to do my research. I had to reach out to a private clinic, pay out of my pocket to get those blood works, and just go through all of that until I figure out my issue. And once I had my protocol with that doctor on the private clinic, I took it, I brought it back to my regular doctor, and now she signed me off on it, and I've been on it ever since. And I changed doctor. I took the same protocol. I brought it with me to my new doctor. Yeah. And once it's dialed in, it's a medical condition, they just keep supporting you through it. So you don't have to do that process ever again. Do it once, keep it, and it's going to follow you for the rest of your life. Yeah.
And now it's perfect.
Yeah.
Right? So you feel good. It's wonderful. You're steady with your hormones, and everything's working perfectly.
Yeah.
So there is hope for people who are suffering with this too. And for the wife or the spouse that are there, don't blame it on you. It has nothing to do with you. And just be there to support your husband. And with that, I had a lot more empathy and love for him when he was open with me about that. So just really be there for one another, because I can't even imagine what that feels like if I put myself in his shoes, how he felt. When I met you, you were 28, 29?
Yeah, 28. And 28. That was horrible.
Well, so it was the year that you started, right? So I can't even imagine how he felt, right? And then him he was embarrassed, not knowing how to be open with me about that. But if he was just straight up and open with me right in the beginning,
which was
I would have had a better understanding, but that's okay. It's fine. Yeah. It made us stronger, like I said. But to all the women out there, do not think it's your fault or blame it on you, because it has nothing to do with you at all. Just really be there to support your man, because when you don't, then
it makes it worse.
It makes it worse. Right?
Yeah.
On
it's more stressful.
And more
stressful. Stress doesn't help.
No, exactly. And then it makes it worse. And
then worse. And it's like a vicious circle. So you go around and you're like, it's not working or whatever. Things are not working fine. And you're stressed, and stress makes it not work.
Not work. Because also being in the bedroom, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of mental.
Yes,
right?
It's a lot of mental. So you have to be at ease with one another, and
comfortable and in the right mindset.
And usually when you start a relationship, you're totally in love, but we had to deal with those issues that were in between, and that was very challenging, because we were learning it together. I was learning about it. She was learning about it. And it was making things hard on us, especially at the peak of our love in the beginning when we want to go crazy over one another. We were kind of limited in the beginning. But you know what? I think it was one of the most beautiful things, because what that ended up doing for us is we learned a lot more about one another. We had more conversations. We would talk about a bit more, and it wasn't all about sex or physical in the beginning. And that made us have a strong relationship, or a stronger relationship.
Absolutely. Of course.
And I do think that's a big reason why we were able to withstand and go through all the things that we've been through together. It's because we really built our foundation solidly in the beginning in our relationship. And we put a lot of efforts in, supporting one another and communication and whatnot. And we still do, because we're never perfect, but
no, of course not.
We try.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's very important. And, if you start a relationship too, most people, like I said, they start a relationship, it's all sexual, it's all physical. And a lot of time just putting too much efforts and too much focus on that will make you disregard the other aspect of the person that will pop up later in your relationship when that phase of craziness
dies down, because eventually it does, right?
Yeah, it just it slows down, because you get used to one another, so you're not jumping on one another every second, every minute, every hour. But this is when the personality and everything else will come into play. And if your relationship's not based solidly on that as well, and not just the sexual side, you're just going to collapse. It's not going to work. So that was it. That was our little podcast that we wanted to talk about testosterone and the importance of noticing the symptoms, accepting to replace it. If you look at just, people like Bruce Willis, Sylvester Stallone, all those actors that are old, Arnold Schwarzenegger, for instance, they're all old, but they're all fit. They're not in a wheelchair. They don't have a cane. And the reason is because they have doctors that supports them hormonally. So they have all their hormones replaced. And I'd rather live my old days being able to walk, being able to be somehow fit, and even, for my wife and grandchildren one day, or children, whatever. It's important to be healthy. So as much as you can try to be healthy working out your whole life, your testosterone is going to decline. And when it's going to decline is when you're going to lose your mobility, you're going to lose your strength, and then working out won't cut it anymore. So don't let yourself get to that point. No. If you can replace your hormones at some point, go for it. There's nothing wrong about it as long as you stay within normal perimeters and you follow your protocol. You're not going to have any problem, because in itself, you're going to have more problem if you don't have testosterone than if you do. And when I say you do, it has to be within normal perimeters, so don't go overboard and crazy with it. And that's about it. So, and
then again, too, in a relationship, to be open with one another, 100% talk about it. And for all you beautiful women out there, do not think it's your fault, because it ain't. Okay. Thank you so much. We would love to hear your comments, your stories below. Anything that you'd like to share, please feel free. Did you want to also discuss about our Sleep Monkey mask before we get off, sweetheart?
Yes. So we're sponsored by the Sleep Monkey Premium Sleep Mask. That's our official sponsor. It's good that you reminded me of it. So they sponsored this podcast. So me and my wife, we work shift work. So we work in the security field, and sleep has been something that we really worked hard to improve. We tried all sort of things: natural pills, prescribed pills, blackout curtains, name it, cardboard in the windows with tape, and she hated it. She gave me a hard time with it. But I mean, we tried everything. And eventually we realized that wearing a sleep mask was one of the best single thing we could ever do for to fix that.
Absolutely.
And the thing with a sleep mask is it blocks the light, so you can wear it anywhere at any time, and it's easy, it's portable. It's always there for you to wear at any time
when
during the day.
When you're feeling tired.
Yeah, when you feel tired, and it blocks the light, it helps you stay asleep. And we try all sort of different masks until we came upon this mask, the Sleep Monkey Premium Sleep Mask, and it's so well designed.
It's amazing. It's comfortable.
It's comfortable.
Fits on your face like a glove, baby. It's wonderful.
It does. And we're not saying that because it's our sponsor, because if it was shit, we wouldn't talk as much about it. So,
no, we wouldn't.
No, we wouldn't. So it's really amazing. So they're not cheap. They're like $40, $50, but it's worth the price because you're going to buy it once and that thing will improve your sleep every single night until you die. So, spend the money. You spend that money on a restaurant or on a few beers anyways. So why not invest a bit in your sleep? And that's going to block the light so much better than any curtains you could buy, anything you could do. It's wonderful. So anyways, Sleep Monkey Premium Sleep Mask, our official sponsor of this podcast. Check it out. Buy yourself one or not. We really don't care. But if you want to improve your sleep, go for it. It's amazing. And you'll
definitely recommend.
You'll definitely come back to us saying, wow, you improved my life so much just by that.
And you're in such a better mood. You wake up, feel refreshed.
Yeah, it's amazing. So peace out, guys. Thanks for being on this podcast with us. Leave us comments, subscribe to the channel, and follow us. And we'll come back for more and interviews during the new year with all sort of people.
Yeah, found it.
Ciao.